Hi, folks. Welcome back to another live stream here at SmugMug Live. Thank you for joining us today, wherever you are in the world. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Another live stream with the team today. I'll have Kaydin join me again today for some more tips and tricks on how to use our product. But firstly, as always, it's always great to hear where people are watching us from. So get into the chat window, give a little shout out to what part of the world you're joining us from. It's always a pleasure to see that. And it goes without saying, if you have any questions today, post those in the chat window and either myself or Kaydin will get around to answering them for you. And that will help us, the direction of this show and what type of questions we're going to be asked will be what we want to answer. Kaydin's got a few things lined up to get started with, but we will go down the path of whatever the questions you ask us are. As always, I'd love it if you hit that subscribe button and the little bell notification. That will let you know about any new episodes that we launch or have coming up. And with that in mind, tomorrow I'm going to be joined by the amazing fashion photographer Lara Jade, who will join me at 11 a.m. Pacific tomorrow and give us a little presentation on how to be a profitable photographer. And I'm really excited to have a chat with Lara tomorrow. And then next week, we're going to be joined on Wednesday by the amazing Brooke Shaden. She'll be joining us to give a presentation about her work. And on Friday next week, I'm going to be joined by Aaron Nace from Flairn, who's going to give us some Photoshop tips and tricks. Stay tuned and look forward to having chats with those people. But for the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to be joined by Kaydin. Good morning, Kaydin. Are you there?
I'm here, Alastair. Good
Hey,
evening to you, my friend.
thank you. It's always great to see you. And the reason we say good morning and good evening to each other is obviously, as you can probably tell from the accent, I'm based over here in Scotland, and Kaydin is in beautiful, sunny Santa Cruz, California. I'm assuming it's sunny, right? I always make that assumption, but it's a safe bet.
It is a safe bet. We're not yet into the summer foggy season, which is a couple of months away.
Yeah, well, let's hope we can get out and enjoy it at some point in the near future. But we've got some people joining us and giving us thumbs up already and giving us some shouts out. So keep those shout outs coming. Let us know where you're from. It really does motivate us to keep doing these when we see people from all over the world joining us and learning. So, Kaydin, you've got some things lined up for us today. And as I say, hopefully people ask some questions and we'll go on a little journey about some tips or tricks. But, probably for the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we'll let Kaydin start things off. So shall we check that your screen is sharing?
Sure.
Yep, looks good. So what we're going to start with today.
I actually wanted to start with something really simple that I think applies to most photographers that want to use us for selling or want to be able to show that their images are copyrighted and protected. And that's just adding a simple copyright notice to the entire site layer so that at the bottom of every page, every folder, every gallery that's being viewed by visitors, they can see that those images and that content is copyrighted and the owner and owned by the account owner themselves. So to get started, we're going to enter the customizer. So I click on Customize, Content, and Design. And the key to this is that we want to put this on like I said earlier, the entire site layer. So I'll click on Entire Site here. It highlights in red. And then I'm going to scroll down, and I actually already put it in here so you can see it. But all this is a little text content block. So I'll redo it, but so I don't have to type it, I'm just going to copy it. And then we'll actually delete this one, and I'll show the exact process. So once you're in the customizer with the entire site layer selected, you'll go on down here, and currently I have a social icons content block in the footer. And so I want to put this copyright notice right below it. So I'm just going to drop down under Add Content Blocks. We'll find text. I'll drag this on. Now I'm holding down my mouse button. We're going to highlight the down arrow because I want it in relationship to the social icons to be below. And then I'm just going to paste that same text that I had there. We'll center it up and then hit done, and wham bam, now we have a copyright notice. Now, some people might not know how to make this little copyright symbol, so I did do the research beforehand, and to do it on a Mac, all you need to do is hit the Option key followed by G, and that will create it. So I'm on a Mac right now, Option G, and there's all the copyright symbols. And
Mhm.
then on a Windows PC, you just hold down Alt and type 0169, and that will create the copyright symbol. But another really super easy way is just Google it and copy the copyright symbol from the
Yeah.
Google page. I do
I
that as well.
always struggle with that copyright sign. I can never remember how to find it. I think every time I've ever used the copyright sign, I've had to Google it or
Yeah. You
copy it
only
from
need it
somewhere.
once. You only need it once every time you work on your
Yeah.
site,
So
right?
that's now because you've in the content block you've chosen or the location window you're on every entire site. That's going to show up on the bottom of every page that you build on your site. Correct?
That's correct. That's especially correct because currently we have a setting right now called independent homepage turned off. The only exception, and this is actually a great segue into the next thing I want to show, which is independent homepage and how it works. The only
It's almost
exception,
like we practiced that.
I know, right? It's great. Um, the only exception there is that when this is turned on, that copyright notice would actually not show on the home page itself. So if we hover over this little helpy, we can see that an independent home page is not affected by changes to the entire site layer. So to parlay right into our next bit here, I'm going to turn this on, and what we're going to see when I hit save is that when I go back to the home page layer here, all of these elements that are in red, so the logo, the nav menu, the social icons, and now the copyright notice, all of these will go away on the home page because they're now being ignored. And why you would want to do this is a really cool feature. Independent homepage is great. And so I'm going to toggle over to Brent Gilmore of the Gilmore Gang's website. He was actually featured in one of our SmugMug films called Just a Dad with a Camera. You guys can check that out on our YouTube channel. But he's got a beautiful site layout here where it's this splash page. This is an independent homepage is what we're looking at here. He's put his family's logo. There's a button that enters you into the site, and then you have a link here with a little social icon. So these are just several different elements that are placed on his homepage layer. And by using independent homepage, once we leave this section, we go and the entire site elements start to show. And that's everything here in this left-hand sidebar, the nav menu over on the side. And it looks like we're being sent into a folder called 2019. So that is why you would use independent homepage would be to create a splash page, a wow page, something that visitors see when they first come there and then they enter into the rest of the site. So I'm going to come back over to the site that we're working on here, and we have a remnant content block, which is the carousel from our previous design. So I'm just going to remove that there. And now it's completely blank. So we have our header, our body or center section, and our footer. And so from here, I'm just going to start with the background image. So I'll go to the background tab and we'll go down, and I think I'm just going to select a static photo this time. And then we're going to go and I'll select the photo, and I've got one in mind here in my portfolio under landscapes. This image right here is what I was thinking. And so right now we just have that image in the back. I do want to draw your attention to the mask option down here. This can be really nice depending on the image because it can be either a light mask like what we see here, or it can also be a darker mask. And I kind of like the dark mask with the low opacity, and it just adds a little more contrast. And so once we have the background set, we can come back over to our content blocks and we'll go under design and grab a logo content block. And I want this to be in the middle, so we'll add it to the center section. And then this is actually going to be an image, so I'm going to remove the text. As a little reminder, you don't actually need to have information in every single field for the content blocks on SmugMug. Sometimes you just want to use an image and text isn't necessary at all. So don't feel as though you need to fill each and every one of these options out. So I'm going to head over to the image tab. We'll click image here, go into our site assets folder, and then I have one here under bio, carousel, where is it? Logo images. Oh, it should have been in there. So it's actually my logo images gallery, and we'll grab the SmugMug logo here in white. And so with logos, when you add logos, they're going to display the size of the photo, or at least as big as it can for your screen size. This resize width option is really powerful because it allows you to scale that logo down. So I'm going to choose, we'll start with 400 pixels. That's a little bit small. Let's go to like 700 pixels. That's a little better. And then under the Basics tab here, this is where we'll find the option to center it up. And now we've got our logo there, and the next step would just be to grab a button. So under navigation, we can find the button content block. And in relationship to the logo, we're going to put it below. And so I'm going to change the text to enter. And we're going to align this to the center. I personally like it when the buttons are a little bit bigger. So we're going to change the size to large. And then where is this going to push to? So I'm going to actually have this go to our, it's currently sent to page I choose. I'm going to choose the browse page actually. You know what? No, we want to point this to the portfolio. So we're going to go page I choose and then choose page. And since this is our folder that we have designed to show to the public, it's the portfolio folder where the rest of these are more site assets related or, for clients. So selecting the folder itself, when somebody enters into the site now, they will be taken directly to that portfolio folder. So we click done and then done and publish now. And now we're leveraging the independent homepage feature where when you come to the homepage to this site, we're presented with a beautiful logo, an enter button, and then when we click here, these other elements such as the logo and the nav bar and the social icons and the copyright notice are showing everywhere else. So it's a really fun feature to play around with and get how it works. It's also going to be a very confusing feature if you enable it by accident. So independent homepage, I recommend you go play around with it, maybe use a new site design and see if it's something that works for you.
That's
For
great
now,
because
I'll keep it enabled.
for within a few seconds there, you've just created a full flowing website. A nice splash page, home page that people see as soon as they type your domain, and then every other page has that design on it that you're seeing just now. So very powerful tool to have that. Like that idea of a wow page, as you say, that having something that really screams your brand and lets people know what they're about to experience right there on the homepage. Of course, everybody has slightly different opinions, but it's great to show these little tricks on how you can create an independent homepage and the button. I don't think we've spoke about buttons before in the customizer, how you can add a button and make that button click through to certain places or even off-site if you wanted. So yeah, it's a powerful little tool.
It really is.
Yeah, no questions at the moment, so we'll let you keep going on. Don't hesitate to ask your questions, folks. We appreciate it.
Great. So perfect. That's independent homepage. The next one I wanted to highlight, which is also in customizing, that might not be as immediately apparent to some users, is the ability to actually further customize the gallery styles themselves. So I'm going to click here on our wildlife gallery, and what I can tell and what I know about this gallery is that it's using the collage landscape style. We hover over an image, we see the info style is covering at the lower bar is what this is called. So the caption and the title, we have the little shopping cart icon. Because we're logged in, we see the download icon. All that's showing on the image when we hover over it. Now, we have other display options for your galleries themselves, but this is kind of like the out-of-the-box settings that you may find if you're using the collage landscape style. So if we want to explore the other options and tweak the styles themselves, all we need to do is enter the customizer from a gallery. So I'm in the wildlife gallery now. We'll go Customize, Content and Design. And then once that loads up, it's as easy as just hovering your mouse over the content itself in the gallery. And what that does is pull up this option here. Now these are the different styles that we have available. And if you click on any one of them, the gallery that you are looking at will temporarily toggle to that style so you can see the changes that you're making. So if I move to collage landscape right now, it's not really going to toggle anything because I know this gallery is using that. But if I move to, let's say, journal, we'll see what journal is like and the settings that are there. So we can take a look that journal is, oh, one large image on top of another. Now, I am going to toggle back to our collage landscape, and because that's my favorite style personally. And we're going to make a few changes here. So first one is info style. Instead of bottom bar, I'm going to put it underneath the images. That way you can see that there's text, you can read about it without actually having to actively move your mouse over the content. The next one I really like to do is, instead of using the little shopping cart icon, which is there and it's visible, I really like moving it to the button so that it's very clear that these are available to purchase. Putting the language buy in there just really drives home the point that these images, they are for sale. As I said earlier, I like larger buttons, so I'm going to move that up in size. And then with the buy button color, I'll move this to accent, which is currently the SmugMug green, but that could be changed in our theme under the accent section. But now those buttons are standing out a lot more. So with a couple of changes there, we just made, those changes that we just made are actually being reset for the collage landscape style. So now any gallery that is using that style and different galleries can have different styles, absolutely. But any gallery that is now using that collage landscape style will inherit these same settings that I just made. So with a little done, publish now, we'll see that live here. And let's toggle to, I think landscapes is also using collage landscape. It should be. So now we see the buy buttons are below there as well. So go ahead and jump into the customizer in your galleries and take a look at the different options that are available for the styles themselves.
So that when you change that gallery style, it changed every current gallery you have available. Can a gallery be independent and not be changed, or does it change them all?
It changes all the galleries that are using collage landscape under the all galleries layer. Yep. So if I was to enter the customizer here, and we make this gallery custom, this is now going to be, if I make changes to this one, I believe, and we can learn together on this one because I'm not 100% sure, but let's move this back to icon. That'll be a real easy change to see. So this landscapes gallery is now using the icon there. It has been toggled to only be the changes to only affect this one rather than all galleries. So done, publish now. If we toggle back to our wildlife, my hypothesis is that the buy button should still be there because it is, and there it is, because those are affected to the all galleries, whereas we made panoramic prints custom and then made changes. That's how it's applying to it.
So you could have a customized homepage, but you could do global changes to all those galleries. But if there was a specific gallery that you just wanted to be different from the rest, then you just choose only this gallery in the location tab, and it will only change that one.
Yeah, it's really powerful. Also, another use case for that is at the folder level too. If I go, let's see, I might have a good example here. So like for an event favorites, I don't know if I have any images in here, but let's say, so this is the saucepan family shoot, right? And it has, so this is the folder and it has two galleries that are associated or that are inside of that one folder. Now, if we leave to that folder here, we'll do this on the next one, Alastair. I don't have it set up the way for this demo for the all folders. But the takeaway is that both folders or galleries can both become custom, and they don't have to be affected by the all galleries or all folders layers there.
Cool. I'll take notes that we'll cover customized folders in the next one, and customize independent folders. Cool. Yeah, it's looking good.
Any questions on your end?
No, we're doing okay. I think people are just engrossed in watching you tweak away and quickly playing about with stuff. And, we know, and this is kind of why we're doing these, we know there's a bit of a learning curve to all the features that are available to you in a SmugMug account. And it takes a while to get to know where all of them are and what they're able to do. And then once you do know what they do, is how to interpret that into design. So that's why a lot of the times we're just playing here and showing you what nuances there are within the settings tools of each content block. So what have you got next for us?
Yeah, so more on the customization side of things. I'm going to continue on actually here. Let's do a little bit more mimicking of what Brent has for his site. So we've built our independent homepage with our logo here and our enter button. And then when we, just to look at his again, when we click, we go and everything's on the left-hand side. So the logo and the nav menu are all over here on the left. Now, so if I go ahead and enter the customizer from our site, what we're going to do is make a change to our entire site layer. So I'll click here. And what we're going to do is head over to the layout tab. So we move from content to theme to background, and then all the way over to the right is layout. And this is where you can add additional sections such as left-hand sidebar or right sidebars. And we just come on down here and we turn it on. And then it's as easy as grabbing these content blocks. So we bring our mouse over to the uppermost left icon and we drag it into this new section. Now it's still going to inherit those settings that it had, which were center, which we want, and so that's all good. But for the nav menu, when we do the same thing, that's going to be set as horizontal. So now that we're using a left-hand sidebar, let's enter the settings here and switch that from horizontal to vertical. But also notice there's accordion, which is kind of a cool option where when you click on it, it'll open up. And then there's also a footer menu, which is really meant for your footer. So this is not a good spot, but I'm just going to use vertical right there. And they're all centered up. And now when we go back, we're even closer to how the Gilmore Gang site is set. So we click enter, and there's the logo, and the nav menu is all over here on the side. So there's more room vertically for the photos and the galleries themselves. One more thing to tie into that is we can notice that the Gilmore Gang site has the logo actually kind of pushed down here, and it's it's in the middle of the page. So and when we come to ours, we can see that it's up here at the top. So there's two ways to kind of approach that. Both would be done through the customizer. So customize, content, and design. And then once we're in here, we're going to do one of two things. We can either come to this little measuring square icon here and add a top margin, which would be, I don't know, maybe 200 pixels or so, should push things down. And that just makes this container have 200 pixels of negative space above it. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it would be to use, under design, we have a spacer content block. And this is really cool because it's just a negative space that you can place on. So in relationship to the logo, we want to put it above. And by default, this spacer content block is only 24 pixels tall. But let's move that to 200. And now that's the same kind of idea that you can put here. Now, what's really nice about spacer content blocks is they can also be stacked on either side of things. So you put them, let's say you needed to have something put to the center that was a little bit wonky. You can use spacers to kind of evenly distribute the space, the available width of the content on your page. Now, this logo that we're using right here works great, and the logo content block has a setting, which is the alignment setting, but sometimes you'll come across where certain content blocks don't have an alignment setting, yet you want it in center. So use a spacer content block to accomplish that.
Awesome.
So let's actually add our space here. Let's do the 200 pixels and then hit done, publish now. And there it is in the middle of the page, a lot cleaner.
Nice, I like it. Got a couple of questions here. Let's see if we can answer these. The first question is from Cove Skipper, and he asks, I'm seeing that this is all at a pro level. Can you specify which of these things work on portfolio? Well, I know that most of the customization that you're seeing, anything we've shown today, is actually available on everything above basic. Correct? Yeah. So
That's
if you're
correct.
on Power, Portfolio or Pro, then you can completely customize and anything that Kaydin has already shown. On Basic, you can customize the homepage only. Is that correct?
That's correct. So I'm glad you brought up Basic. So the main thing to remember about Basic is I always tell people the Basic account should be thought of like as backup. When you wanted to start really customizing, adding nav menus, any search, independent home page, custom pages like an About Me page, all of that stuff starts at the Power account level. So yeah, everything we've covered today is available to Power, Portfolio, and Pro. And yeah,
Yeah. Anything in customization, anything above Basic, you can customize any page. The differences come in some of the account settings. So some of the security features like watermarking, that type of thing, is only available in the Pro account. But customization is across the board on anything above Basic. Question here from Randy Pollock. How good are your WordPress embedding questions? Because Randy's got one here for you. When I use a photo sharing link for my WordPress blog, I have to change the link from my custom domain name to my SmugMug account name. Is that just how it works, or am I doing something wrong when I use a photo
um,
sharing link?
it could be a little bit of both. It depends really how the domain is set up. If it's set up correctly using the instructions that we have in our domain help page, should be able to just grab the direct link using the custom domain as well. Our support heroes will be able to help troubleshoot that the best because they'll be able to look at the site and run a test to make sure that the domain is set up correctly. So I'd recommend reaching out to our support team either via live chat, which I can show you up here for any portfolio or pro account holders.
Sorry, I wasn't sharing your screen. Just show them where that is again.
Sure, yeah. So up here, when you're anywhere on when you're logged into your your SmugMug account, when you click on the little question mark icon next to the what's new and between your profile icon, this is the support center. Sometimes the support menu down at the bottom will be minimized, so you just got to click that to bring it up, and you'll see chat with a hero. That's Monday through Friday, East Coast business hours to West Coast business hours, so 9 a.m. East Coast to 5 p.m. West Coast, and that US, and that will get you a live chat, and they can help you out with the domain and make sure everything's dialed in, or direct you as to the correct workflow for obtaining those links efficiently. Or if you're not on either of those, the pro or portfolio account level, an email to help@smugmug.com, and you'll typically get a response within 10-15 minutes.
Yep.
Just be sure to include as much info as you can, and they'll get back to you as quick as possible. So that's my suggestion there with the domain stuff, because it could be set up totally correct, and it just needs to be a workflow switch, or the domain could be slightly off.
Yeah. Thanks for that question, Randy. But yeah, I would definitely recommend reaching out to the help team just on that specifics on embedding photos in WordPress blogs or pages. Cove Skipper asks, again, relating to what of the things we're showing are available at what account level. He says, I saw event and custom gallery stuff. Is that pro only? Yes. Custom gallery is just a customization feature. We haven't covered event features. Yeah.
I was here in the event favorites folder that was auto-generated from the event that I do have on this account. So the account that I am broadcasting from today is a pro account, and this folder was, good catch there, Cove Skipper. This was created by the events feature, but the example that we were showing before of taking a top level folder like the Saucepan Family Shoot and having subfolders underneath that could be applied to any account level, where you then make that folder custom and could add additional content blocks to it. So an example of that would be, and we can go over that in the next call because I don't have it too prepped, but would be like a wedding photographer that has multiple galleries for the different events. So the reception, the ceremony, the dancing. So you may customize the folder level, which is the client, kind of their entrance point into all of their galleries. You may add some text or a great video or something that was shot at that event that you want to feature at the folder level before they decide what gallery they're going to look at. So that is still absolutely accomplishable from either the Portfolio Pro or Power account levels. But yeah, I hope I made that clear there, Code Skipper.
Yeah, and obviously we haven't really covered the actual event tool on these yet,
Yep.
but we did go in quite deeply into event tool during our live stream with my other colleague Aaron Myers when we covered the Lightroom plugin. We did cover some of the event features and how you can use Lightroom to build them as well. So go check out the Lightroom special we have here on the channel. But events is a pro feature. Thanks, Cove Skipper. Appreciate that. Okay, back to you, Kaydin. What's
Back to
next?
me. So let's see. The next thing I really wanted to highlight, and we kind of talked about it a little bit there with our support team, is uh, we have an amazing support team to reach out to, but we have a member on that support team that's been with SmugMug for a really long time and is incredibly talented in customizations and has put a lot of time and energy into creating a portal. He made it himself that highlights some really awesome customizations that are possible. So this is Tomasz Nowicki. Um, this is the SmugMug website right here, fauxtom.me, and there's a little link down there that has SmugMug customizations, and that'll take us to this beautiful site where he's built, and you'll find lots of different little CSS and HTML code that's ready to just copy and paste right into your SmugMug site to make it more custom and unique and stylish. So just a little shout out there to Tomasz because he's put a ton of work into this, and it's really a fantastic resource if you want to take the settings and the features even further. He explains here all you need to do is add a CSS content block to either the entire site layer or the all galleries, and then you would just come in here and copy this, or if you wanted to hide the full screen button, you'd take that little bit, or you wanted to hide the share button, you take that. And so you just kind of grab the little pieces of code that you need and put them into your own site. And this can really help, one, give you an understanding of what's possible with all the little tweaks, and step you apart from the rest of the pack too, really make it look unique. So shout out to Tomasz there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe we should highlight that a lot of what we demonstrate and a lot of what we've built with our own product is the ability just to drag and drop and customize your site without having to need to use code and without having to put it anywhere. But we do have a content block that allows you to drop in CSS and HTML should you then want to go and tweak the site in a way that isn't out the box and isn't standard feature. You want to maybe just highlight where that
Yeah,
content block
absolutely.
is?
So the first thing, whenever you're doing any customizations with CSS or HTML, I always say is you want to be aware of the layer you have selected, because where you add that block is the layer that it will affect. So if you're going to make a change, let's say just the styling for the nav menu on the entire site, just be sure to grab the CSS content block, which is at the bottom of the add content block section here. We just grab that and bring it into either the header or the footer is good practice. I usually just put it in the header, and then you can start pasting your code in there, and that will affect the entire site. But sometimes you'll want to add it, you'll want changes to only happen to when the visitor is inside of a gallery. And if that's the case, then you'd be sure to have all galleries selected and bring that CSS content block onto the page. There is a third location as well, and what's really handy about this is that themes, I don't know if here's a little pro tip, that themes actually carry over to your other site designs. So if you plan on creating a new site design and there are certain elements or changes that you really want, like certain color palettes or the way that headers and color, fonts and different opacity levels are set in your existing theme, well, you can access that theme from another site design. But in addition to that, like when we look at SmugMug Lite here, and I drop in to the settings for this specific theme, and we go to the Advanced tab, at the bottom, there's another section for custom CSS, and it can be put in there. So when that theme is applied to a layer, whether it be all galleries, all folders, homepage, your entire site, or even because this is possible as well, you can have individual themes applied to individual galleries. Then the code that was added to that advanced section of that theme will be applied to it. So it's kind of a way to create some evergreen space for your code if you're going to switch between designs at different times.
Yeah, and I would also recommend try and do what you want to do with the tools that we provide, the content blocks that are there. Obviously, we give you the ability to add that CSS and that HTML, but it's a powerful tool. It can do amazing things, and it can very quickly do unamazing things if you don't know what you're doing. So I would highly recommend trying to build the design as much as possible using the standard features that we give you. I personally, I'll be honest, I'd go nowhere near the CSS file. It's just not my jam. I try and do everything as basic as possible with our own tools, but smarter people like me, people like Thomas that we just highlighted, they have some great content there that makes it a lot simpler. Yep. And there's lots of people on the web sharing SmugMug CSS and HTML examples. So we
shout out to dgrin as well.
Yep. dgrin.com. Yep.
Yep. dgrin.com, our photography forum that has a super active customization section in there. And I remember 10 years ago being in dgrin trying to learn how to make a change to a slideshow and just being blown away with the community in there to be able to help out and troubleshoot and get it just how I wanted it. So if you're interested in photography community, check out dgrin as well.
Yeah, we sometimes forget to mention dgrin, but it is a great forum, and there's everything on there as you typically find on a photo forum, from support to competitions to ideas to photographic subjects to gear talk. But there's definitely a big strong section in there on how to customize your site with the tools that we give you as standard, but also a wonderful section there all about CSS and HTML, making the site do things that we haven't given you the standard tools for. Quick question again from Randy here. This will test your skills. What are the video size limits now for SmugMug?
3 gigabytes, 20 minutes.
At 1080p.
At 1080p.
Yeah. So there you go. Well done. Didn't even have to Google that one. So just repeat that once more for Randy.
Yeah. So the video limits for uploading to SmugMug are currently at 20 minutes or 3 gigabytes, whichever one comes first.
Yeah. Cool.
And those will be resampled to H.264 at 1080p.
Yep. Cool. Thanks for that. Good knowledge. Didn't even have to blink. It's awesome.
Nope.
We'll catch you out at some point. Okay, what's next?
Next, we're going to, while I'm still here in the customizer, I know there's one other setting I really kind of wanted to highlight that people love enabling, and sometimes can be really frustrating if it's enabled on accident or they picked a design that it was enabled and it's not a feature that they would like to leverage. And that would be called pinning, which would be found in the layout tab. And it's referring to pinning a section to your site down, pinning it down so that as the user scrolls, that section stays there. Typically, it's usually done with the header because and we've all been on websites where the nav menu and the logos stay there as you move down versus being scrolled off the page. But you also have the option to set it to the left or the right or the footer. But usually it's set to the header unless you have a left-hand sidebar and all of that. So let's just take a quick look at how this works. So I set pinning to the header, and if I'm going to preview. So I'll use the preview option here instead of publishing it. And so we're at our home page. We're going to enter. Then we'll go into wildlife because I know that has the most images. And as I scroll, you can see that header actually stayed there. Now, we also see that we didn't get the background color there because there is no background color. So that's something that's in our theme. So let's take a look at that real fast, because usually if you do use pinning, you probably want to bring the header and the color with it. So I'll click exit here to get out of the preview mode, and then into the theme, and we're using SmugMug Light here. So I know that under the Advanced tab, if we go to the header and I switch this to white and I change the opacity, then, and I actually, since this is a default theme, I need to give this one a name to save it as a new version. So let's just call this demo header and then hit done. And now let's preview. Well, actually, we're on independent homepage, so let me make a quick change. We have to be on the entire site layer. So back out of that, switch to here. Now this theme is still using the SmugMug Light, so we're just going to toggle that to demo header, which is now under my themes. And now when we preview and we find ourselves going into a gallery such as wildlife, this header will follow us down. Now, obviously, visitors won't have this publish bar up top, so that won't show, and the full logo will show, but you can see how that would work here, where the header kind of stays there as you scroll down. So that's a setting called pinning, and it can be really powerful, and it can also be kind of annoying if you don't know how to turn it off. So that's where it is. And then I just want to parlay right into a few other cool features here that I quickly highlighted while we went down to pinning, but that's with like the left-hand sidebars where you saw we turned that on earlier, left and right. There's some width sections as well here, so if you want to change how wide your header section is, your body, those are available. But also, if you want to switch your site to being either stretchy, which means dynamic, where the photos and the galleries are going to stretch to fill the screen width, or you can set it to fixed, which is how all web pages, if you were to create a new web page, those by default are fixed because they're typically more text centric, where we have paragraphs talking about pricing or who we are as photographers, and so you want control over those paragraphs, so we use fixed widths. But here in the layout tab, there's a lot of cool little features, and as you can see, they all change right here live in time. So this little 24 pixels for the side margins, that's that right there. We get rid of it and we go to 0, and you can see that now it's going to be full bleed all the way. And a little pro tip, you can actually go into negative integers too. So that is actually full bleed all the way to the very edge of the screen would be -12. And that is what I have for today, Alastair. I'm happy to spend some more time answering questions, though.
Yeah, we're pretty caught up in questions. There's one more here. Cove Skipper, you're definitely winning the bonus prizes for most interactive guest today, so we really appreciate your questions. He's asking, he's found that a slideshow content block will loop the slideshow, but the gallery slideshow option doesn't seem to. And I would say that is by design. You know, when you add a slideshow content block to your site, it's a design element. It's you're adding a feature to your site from a visual perspective, so that when someone comes to your site, and no matter how long they're on that site, that gallery is going to loop. But when you choose a slideshow for an actual gallery, it's just a way to present all the images in that gallery to a client so they see it from start to finish. So it kind of is by design that it works that way. Anything to add to that?
Well, I will amend some of that because when we were talking about in the beginning of today, we were going into the ability to customize the gallery styles further. So Cove Skipper, go ahead and jump into the customizer when you're in a gallery, and then click on the gallery content and come down to your slideshow option, and that's where you're going to find a bunch of different options for the slideshow itself and for the gallery styled slideshow, not the content block. So just so you're aware, there are some additional settings in there for that option rather than just the out-of-the-box ones.
But not a loop setting, I believe. In
Doesn't look like
yeah.
there's a fully loops through.
I think what we're really going for there is when you're delivering a gallery to someone, we're assuming you want to let someone see it from start to finish, and they can obviously hit replay and play it again. With the content block slideshow, we're assuming it's a design element on the page that is just going to continually be dynamic and continue to move. So that's our logic behind that.
But to address that desire, what I would do is just I'd use a page code skipper instead, since the content block is almost identical to the style. If you use a page for the client delivery vehicle, how you're going to send it to them. If you're wanting to show the images off in a slideshow version, then create a page and just add that slideshow content block and call forward the gallery that you want. And then they won't know the difference between it being a gallery or a page there. So that could be an option as well as kind of a worker.
That would be on Power and above, right? So because then you can have as many pages, as many customized pages as you want. If you're on Power, Portfolio, or Pro, yeah, there's no limit to how many pages you are. So you could create a page specifically for that client and use the content block as the slideshow delivery system rather than the standard gallery slideshow. But it's an interesting piece of feedback, and definitely we will take that to the designers and see if there's any other logic as to why it's that way. Maybe it's just something we could add to the potential do list. No guarantees.
So many options.
There are so many options.
Can't code every single one of them in.
Yeah.
But
we think we've thought of most of the stuff, but there's always one or two use cases that aren't quite there yet. But awesome. That's us at the 45-minute mark, which is what we typically try and aim for today. So if there's no more questions, which I don't see, although they are quite delayed, the questions seem to be about, well, the chat window is about 30 seconds behind real time what we're seeing. So, see, there you go. We thought we'd finished and one pops up. Yeah, we'll answer that another time maybe. Yeah, Code Skipper's like, what do you mean by call forward the gallery on the page?
Sure. What I mean by that is when you use a content block that allows you to point to something. So let's just go into our customizer here from the home page. We can add a slideshow, it doesn't matter. Some of those content blocks, allow you to call content that exists inside of your organizer to make that content work, right? So if we go here to photos and we grab slideshow, and I'll just put it below the button here, it's now asking us which gallery do you want. You're calling forward a gallery to be used for that slideshow content block. So that's the language I use, and I should probably relook at it if it's confusing. But yeah, it's the selection process of what your content you're actually going to show. That's what I meant.
Awesome, that's great. Some shout outs thanking us for the wonderful tips. DJ, you are welcome. He says he looks forward to applying some of these. It's great to be doing this. Obviously, we started doing this mainly because we can't travel and do some of the other things that we would typically be doing in our roles. But it's great to get into the live streaming game and bring in some of these tips and tricks. And answering some of your direct questions, which is nice to feed off of those. So thank you for the shout out. And if you haven't seen any of the previous episodes, this is episode 10 now, believe it or not, of SmugMug Live. After a few weeks of doing this, we have a combination of tips and tricks episodes and some special guests. So DJ and others, go check out some of the previous tips and tricks that Kaydin has been teaching us, because there's all sorts of things covered over the last sort of 3 episodes we've been together. I think it's 3 we've done now together, Kaydin,
this is our third.
This is the third one. So yeah, check out some of those. And we have one specific one with our colleague Aaron, just talking about the Lightroom plugin as well. That's a full episode just dedicated to that feature. And then obviously you can watch some of the restreams of some of the amazing guests we've had here. So Kaydin, thank you for the moment. I'll come back to you in a second. But I just want to say to everybody, thank you obviously for joining us. Tomorrow at the same time, streaming at 11 a.m. Pacific, we will be joined by the wonderful fashion photographer Lara Jade. and I'll be having a little chat with her, and she'll be giving us a little presentation on how to be a profitable photographer. So as I say, 11 a.m. Pacific, that would be 2 p.m. East Coast, 7 p.m. here in the UK, 8 p.m. Central European time. So many time zones we've got to cover. I won't even try and get into some of the Asian time zones and Australian time zones. But yeah, join us tomorrow for a great conversation with Lara. And then next week, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we have the wonderful Brooke Shaden joining us, phenomenal conceptual fine artist. And on Friday, a special episode with Aaron Nace from Flairn, giving us some teachings on Photoshop, which will be awesome. Really looking forward to that one myself. But do me a favor, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, ding the little bell, hit that bell notification. That way you'll be notified about any of these episodes, and you'll find them all here on our YouTube channel. Kaydin, thank you so much today. I really appreciate your time as always. You enjoy the rest of your day, which is still early in California. Thank you so much, Kaydin. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and it's nearing the end of my day here in the UK, in Scotland. But everybody, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are in the world, and we'll see you back here next week with some more episodes of SmugMug Live. Take care.